A billionaire walked into the Commerce Department on Monday morning. He owns a 97-year-old toll bridge that makes his family tens of millions of dollars every single year. His family spent over $33 million trying to block the construction of a competing bridge. He's donated more than $600,000 to Donald Trump's campaigns and the Republican Party. And just hours after that meeting, Trump posted on Truth Social, threatening to block a brand new bridge from opening, unless Canada hands over half of it to the United States. The bridge Canada already paid $4.7 billion to build. The bridge Michigan already co-owns under a 50-50 agreement. The bridge that Trump himself called a vital economic link between our two countries back in 2017. This isn't just another Trump post. This is pay-to-play corruption, caught in real time, with receipts, timestamps, and a paper trail that leads directly from a billionaire donor's pocket straight to the Oval Office. Let me start with what Trump posted on Monday, February 9th. He wrote on Truth Social, "I will not allow this bridge to open until the United States is fully compensated for everything we have given them." He added that Canada must treat the United States with fairness and respect, and that negotiations would begin immediately, claiming the U.S. should own perhaps at least one half of this asset. That post went up just before 6 p.m. Eastern Time. But here's what Trump didn't mention. Hours earlier that same day, Matthew Morone, the billionaire chairman of the Detroit International Bridge Company, met with Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick in Washington. After that meeting, Lutnick called Trump, and within hours the President of the United States was threatening to block a bridge that is fully constructed, fully connected to interstate systems on both sides of the border, and ready to open. The New York Times broke this story Tuesday, citing two officials briefed on the meeting. U.S. Representative Debbie Dingell confirmed she'd been told the meeting happened. Matthew Morone met with Howard Lutnick. Lutnick called Trump. Trump threatened Canada. The timeline is crystal clear. And what makes it even more brazen is what the Morone family owns. They own the Ambassador Bridge, the 97-year-old private toll bridge that currently handles roughly a quarter of all U.S.-Canada merchandise trade. The new Gordie Howe International Bridge will be the Ambassador Bridge's direct competitor. When it opens, the Morone family's monopoly ends. Truckers will have a choice, and the Morones will lose millions in toll revenue. So Matthew Morone walked into the Trump administration and apparently bought himself a presidential threat against his competitor. That's not capitalism. That's corruption. Let me walk through every single claim Trump made in that post, because they're all wrong. Trump said the United States should own at least half of the bridge. The United States already owns half the bridge. Michigan and Canada are 50-50 owners. That's been the deal since 2012, when Republican Governor Rick Snyder negotiated the agreement. Canada paid for 100% of the construction costs, $4.7 billion US dollars. And the total project cost has risen to roughly 6.4 billion Canadian. But Michigan got 50% ownership without investing a single dollar. Canada will recoup its investment through toll revenue over time, and once those costs are recovered, Michigan will receive 50% of net toll proceeds. Trump either doesn't know this basic fact, or he's lying, given that his own administration endorsed this bridge in 2017 and helped expedite it. I'm guessing he's lying. Trump claimed the bridge was built with virtually no U.S. content. That's also false. Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer's office confirmed the bridge was built by union construction workers from both sides of the border, using U.S. steel on the Michigan side. Windsor Mayor Drew Dilkins confirmed that U.S. steel was used in the American portion of the project. The 2012 agreement requires that iron and steel used in construction be produced in either the U.S. or Canada. When Trump says virtually no U.S. content, he's making it up. Trump claimed Canada expects him to just let them take advantage of America. But Trump himself already endorsed this bridge. In February 2017, during his first term, Trump issued a joint statement with then-Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. That statement said they look forward to the expeditious completion of the Gordie Howe International Bridge, which will serve as a vital economic link between our two countries. Trump called it a vital economic link in 2017. He wanted it expedited. He celebrated it as cooperation. Now, in 2026, after a billionaire donor asks for a favor, he suddenly thinks it's unfair. What changed? Matthew Moran started writing bigger checks and hiring better lobbyists. Understanding the Moran family explains everything about why this is happening. The Morans have owned and operated the Ambassador Bridge since 1979. It's a private toll bridge, meaning they charge fees to every truck and car that crosses. The bridge handles roughly a quarter of all U.S.-Canada merchandise trade. That's over $140 billion in goods per year, and over 7,000 trucks crossing daily. The Morans collect tolls on every single one. Forbes estimated the Moran family net worth at $1.5 billion in 2020. They made a fortune from their monopoly, and they've fought viciously to protect it for decades. In 2012, the Moran family spent over $33 million backing a Michigan ballot measure designed to block the Gordie Howe Bridge. They knew that if voters approved their proposal, their monopoly would be safe. But Michigan voters rejected the Moran-backed measure 59% to 41%. The people of Michigan wanted competition. They wanted a publicly owned bridge. They wanted to break the monopoly. The Morans lost that fight at the ballot box, but they didn't give up. According to federal lobbying disclosures, the Morans have spent millions on lobbying, much of it aimed at stopping or delaying the Gordie Howe Bridge. They lobbied Congress. They lobbied the White House. They lobbied the Transportation Department. They lobbied the State Department. And in 2018, during Trump's first term, the Moran family's company even ran an ad on Fox News morning shows, the ones Trump was known to watch, arguing against the bridge. ProPublica reported that Trump's current Truth Social post echoed claims from that very ad. When Trump won again in 2024, they saw a new opportunity. In August 2025, the Detroit International Bridge Company, the Moran family's bridge operation, re-engaged Ballard Partners, one of the top lobbying firms in Trump's Washington. And here's the connection that matters. Ballard Partners' Washington, D.C. office was formerly led by Susie Wiles, who is now Trump's White House chief of staff. Wiles doesn't appear on the firm's disclosures as having worked directly on the bridge company's account. But her firm got the contract. And it gets deeper. The Detroit News reported that one of the Ballard Partners lobbyists, who did lobby on behalf of the bridge company back in 2021, was Pam Bondi, who now serves as Trump's Attorney General. The Department of Justice pushed back on the connection, saying Bondi adheres to the highest applicable ethical obligations, and that her prior work has no nexus with her work as Attorney General. But the revolving door is right there. From August through December 2025, the Moran family paid Ballard Partners at least $250,000 to lobby the White House, Congress, and the State Department on issues related to construction and operation of international bridges. During Trump's first term, the Morans paid Ballard at least $2.5 million in total. But lobbying wasn't enough. The Morans also donated heavily. Federal Election Commission records, confirmed by CBC News, the Detroit News, and Detroit Metro Times, show Matthew Moran has donated over $605,000 to Trump's campaigns and the Trump Victory Fundraising Committee across 2019 and 2020. He gave $1.2 million to the Republican National Committee in total, including $250,000 to the RNC in July 2025, just 1 month before his family rehired Ballard Partners. He's also donated to Michigan Republican Party committees. Interestingly, Moran didn't always back Trump. In 2023, he gave $236,800 to a super PAC supporting Ron DeSantis' presidential bid. But when DeSantis dropped out, Moran's money flowed right back to the GOP. And it's not just Trump. Moran has spread his money across Michigan Republicans who might have influence over the bridge. Campaign finance records show Congressman John James, now running for governor of Michigan, received at least $58,000 from the Moran family over the years, including donations during his congressional and failed Senate campaigns, plus a maximum $8,325 donation to his 2025 gubernatorial campaign. Michigan House Speaker Matt Hall received over $35,000 from Moran to his campaign committee since 2019, plus another $35,000 to his House Majority Fund Leadership PAC. Former Congressman Mike Rogers, now running for Senate, also received Moran contributions. These are the same Michigan Republicans who immediately defended Trump's threat. John James went on radio and praised Trump as the best dealmaker in the world. Matt Hall told the Detroit News he supported Trump's post and described the Ambassador Bridge as owned by an American company, as if that justifies blocking a competing bridge that would benefit American workers and businesses. They took Moran's money, and now they're doing Moran's bidding. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney, who took office just weeks ago, called Trump to explain the basic facts. Carney told reporters he explained that Canada paid for the bridge, that ownership is shared with Michigan, and that both U.S. and Canadian steel and workers were used in construction. He called the bridge a great example of cooperation between our countries. Carney stayed diplomatic. He didn't accuse Trump of lying. He didn't mention the Moran meeting. He just corrected the misinformation. Rick Snyder, the Republican governor who negotiated the original bridge deal in 2012, wrote an op-ed in the Detroit News. Snyder pointed out that Canada and Michigan are 50-50 owners. He explained that Canada financed the entire bridge and will get repaid with interest from tolls, meaning Michigan got half ownership for zero investment. He noted that parts of the construction were exempt from Buy America requirements because half the project was outside the U.S., so U.S. law doesn't apply to the Canadian side. And then Snyder wrote something pointed. He encouraged Trump to challenge your advisors and the sources for your post to correct the information they have provided. That's a Republican governor saying Trump's team fed him lies, and he knows exactly who those sources are. Windsor Mayor Drew Dilkens was blunter. He told CBC News that Trump's claims were insanity and inaccurate, and that the president fundamentally doesn't understand the situation. But then Dilkens acknowledged the real motive. He said if he put himself in Matthew Moran's shoes and saw a competing government bridge about to open, connected directly to the interstate on both sides, he'd probably try to get a delay, too. The move that he's making is one that probably a lot of people would want to make if they own the same asset, Dilkens said. He gets it. Moran is protecting his profits. The problem is that the President of the United States is helping him do it. Michigan Governor Whitmer defended the bridge as essential for jobs in Michigan's auto industry. Senator Alyssa Slotkin said canceling the project would have serious repercussions for Michigan's economy, adding that the president is punishing Michiganders for a trade war he started. On Thursday, February 13th, Democratic Congressman Robert Garcia of California, the ranking member of the House Oversight Committee, launched a formal investigation. Garcia sent a letter to Howard Lutnick demanding all documents related to the Moran meeting, all communications between the Moran family and the Commerce Department, and all communications between the Commerce Department and the White House about the bridge. Garcia wrote that it appears that you have chosen to protect a politically connected billionaire donor family at the expense of promoting American commerce. He called it flatly unacceptable and undeniably corrupt to allow a wealthy donor to dictate our foreign and economic policy in order to protect his personal business interests. And then Garcia asked the key question: whether Trump or Lutnick stand to receive additional benefits from Moran in exchange for the interference. Michigan Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib, who represents Detroit and sits on the Oversight Committee, issued her own statement. She said it was no surprise that Moran met with the Trump administration hours before the threat, calling the Moran's behavior decades in the making. For decades, the Moran family have used their money and influence to enrich themselves at the expense of our neighbors in working-class communities in Detroit, Tlaib said. As a member of the House Oversight Committee, we have a responsibility to investigate and root out this blatant corruption. Senator Amy Klobuchar connected the dots publicly. A billionaire bridge owner meets with the Commerce Secretary. Hours later, Trump is threatening Canada and trying to block a critical bridge that would cut into that billionaire's profits. Now, one important reality check. As ranking member, meaning the top Democrat, Garcia can demand documents and launch investigations, but the minority party doesn't have the power to issue subpoenas. Only the Republican committee chair, James Comer, can do that. And Comer's office didn't respond to requests for comment. So unless Republicans join the investigation, Democrats can pressure, but can't compel. Michigan Democrats also introduced a bill to prohibit Trump from blocking the bridge, asserting Michigan's ownership rights and preventing federal interference without an act of Congress or the governor's request. It's a largely symbolic bill in a Republican-controlled House, but it sends a message. The White House tried to defend Trump's position, and it fell apart immediately. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt told reporters, "The fact that Canada will control what crosses the Gordie Howe Bridge and owns the land on both sides is unacceptable to the president. It's also unacceptable that more of this bridge isn't being built with more American-made materials." But that's just restating Trump's false claims. Canada doesn't unilaterally control what crosses the bridge. U.S. Customs and Border Protection controls what enters the United States. Canada doesn't own the land on both sides. Michigan owns the U.S. side, and American-made materials were used throughout the Michigan portion of construction. Leavitt's statement didn't survive the slightest scrutiny. The White House then pivoted, claiming Trump has the right to amend the presidential permit that authorized the bridge. That may be technically true. Presidential permits are executive actions, and presidents can modify them. But just because Trump can do something doesn't mean he should. And it doesn't explain why he suddenly decided to do it hours after a billionaire donor asked for help. U.S. Trade Representative Jameson Greer told Fox Business that the United States needs to make sure it has its fair share of any proceeds from that bridge and the economic activity it generates. But Michigan already gets its fair share, 50% ownership, and 50% of net toll profits once Canada recoups its construction costs, all for zero investment. That's an incredible deal for Michigan and the United States. This isn't just about one bridge. It's about what this bridge represents. The Gordie Howe International Bridge will have 6 lanes of traffic compared to the Ambassador Bridge's 4. It has modern customs facilities designed for efficient processing. It has direct highway interchanges on both sides, connecting directly to Interstate 75 in Michigan and Highway 401 in Ontario, unlike the Ambassador Bridge, which forces trucks through city streets and traffic lights. Reuters reported the new crossing is expected to save truckers billions of dollars over its lifetime through reduced transit times. and it will provide the first legal pedestrian and cyclist crossing of the Detroit River. Most importantly, it provides competition. The Moran family can't charge whatever tolls they want anymore. If the Ambassador Bridge is too expensive or too slow, truckers will use the Gordie Howe. That's how markets are supposed to work. But there's a national security dimension, too. Right now, roughly a quarter of all U.S.-Canada merchandise trade crosses a single privately owned bridge, controlled by one billionaire family. If anything disrupts that bridge, if there's a mechanical failure, a labor dispute, or a blockade, a massive volume of trade stops. We saw this in 2022 when the Canadian convoy protest blockaded the Ambassador Bridge and shut down commerce for days. That's a vulnerability. The Gordie Howe Bridge eliminates that single point of failure. It provides redundancy. It strengthens supply chains. Blocking it for the benefit of one donor undermines American national security. And let's be clear about what the Ambassador Bridge is today. It's nearly a century old. It's congested. It lacks direct highway connections on the Canadian side. It's privately owned and operated for maximum profit. The Moran family has a long history of legal battles. They fought the Gordie Howe project through lawsuits, lobbying, and ballot initiatives for over a decade. So here's where we stand. Matthew Moran, a billionaire bridge owner who has donated over $605,000 to Trump and the Republican Party, met with Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick on Monday, February 9th. Lutnick called Trump. Trump threatened to block the Gordie Howe International Bridge from opening. Trump claimed the U.S. doesn't own half the bridge. False. Michigan owns 50%. Trump claimed the bridge was built without U.S. content. False. U.S. steel and U.S. workers were used. Trump claimed the deal is unfair to America. False. Michigan got 50% ownership for zero investment. Trump claimed he's protecting American interests. What he's actually protecting is one billionaire donor's monopoly, at the expense of American workers, American businesses, and American national security. Democrats are investigating. Robert Garcia is demanding documents. Rashida Tlaib is calling it blatant corruption. Amy Klobuchar is pointing out the obvious pay-to-play scheme. Republican Rick Snyder is telling Trump his advisors fed him bad information. Windsor Mayor Drew Dilkins is calling it insane. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney had to personally educate Trump on the basic facts of a bridge Trump himself endorsed 9 years ago. And through it all, the Moran family stays quiet, letting their money do the talking. This is how corruption works in America right now. A billionaire writes checks to politicians and political parties. He hires well-connected lobbyists. From a firm formerly led by the White House Chief of Staff, with a former lobbyist who is now the Attorney General, he gets a meeting with a cabinet secretary. That cabinet secretary calls the president, and within hours the president is using the power of his office to protect the billionaire's business interests, even if it means lying to the public, damaging international relationships, and undermining American economic and national security. It's not subtle. It's not hidden. It's corruption in broad daylight with timestamps and receipts. So I have a question for you. Should Congress investigate this? Should Robert Garcia's oversight probe uncover every email, every phone call, every communication between Matthew Moran, Howard Lutnick, and Donald Trump? Or should we just accept that this is how things work now? That billionaire donors can buy presidential policy decisions by writing checks and hiring the right lobbyists? Let me know in the comments. This is Capital Insider, where we follow the money they don't want you to follow. A billionaire bought a meeting with the Commerce Secretary. Hours later, the president threatened to block his competitor. That's not governance. That's corruption. Subscribe and turn on notifications. We'll be following the congressional investigation, the bridge opening, and every dollar that flows from the Moran family to Trump and his administration. Because somebody has to follow the money. I'll see you in the next one.